So talking more about the canter, the other thing is that it's easy to give the horse a crude aid for the canter, and that is usually often, and I hope you'll all forgive me for sort of saying this, but it's often a stab in the belly for canter, or something to that effect. And that stab in the belly is not conducive to having a bond with your horse in canter. It's far better to squeeze the legs together, both together. Don't worry about clawing back the outside leg unless you're not in the school. It doesn't necessarily matter which leg they canter on initially. They all have a favourite. And so be gentle in asking for the canter, but have a gentle aid, a squeezing, because the other thing is that the horse might not necessarily understand what you want. You see, just because we want to have canter, the horse may not have a clue what you want. He may start trotting faster, or his head might come up. And often the head comes up when the rider decides, he's been taught that to ask for canter you've got to sit for the trot. Well, unless the rider has got quite an independent seat and can sit lightly, and that the horse is rounding its back nicely and everything's going swimmingly, in actual fact, as soon as you sit for trot, the horse very often starts to hollow, even if you haven't recognised it. And once he's hollow, he's not in the best place to canter. So when we canter from trot, shall we say, we lean slightly forward initially. When we're not in the school, we lean slightly forward. So we're trotting along, we lean slightly forward, so we're sort of like rising really softly and slowly, and at the same time squeezing the legs, and then give the canter aid, and often ask for canter as well, with a verbal cue, so the horse doesn't get a surprise and he's got time to work out what he wants. Because I see so many horses, they're trotting around and the next minute they've had a kick in the belly and they think, oh what's that, oh canter, and they're away, and that wasn't perhaps the rider's intention. I never let them walk off straight away as soon as a car's passed. They tend to get very, they think, I can walk off now, and so again they're not with you. So yes, for the canter, make your aids, differentiate between that and a trot, but kind of don't, give them a kick in the belly, and don't be too quick to canter if you haven't got a strong bond, in the walk and the trot first. Leave it, it doesn't matter. Far better to leave it and not try it than try it and think of it as something quite a negative thing. Because for cobs especially, they don't always find it easy, and they can't necessarily organise their legs, and the whole thing just deteriorates and ends up being sort of messy, and then understandably the rider gets disappointed, and very soon it gets to be a problem. So let your horse, when you feel it's right to canter, ask the horse nicely into canter, and when he is cantering, think about bringing him back to trot, in the not too distant future, like a few strides. Give him a big pat, and then maybe ask for it again. But don't keep it going for long periods of time, like from one end of a fire break to another, because you'll find that it just gets faster and longer and more strung out the more you keep asking to do it. And so, as I say, the measure of the bond, the strength of the bond can be measured by how comfortable you are with each other in canter, and you should have that comfort, and it shouldn't be a big deal, but it so often is. And I think if people realised more how it's a big deal for the horse as well as them, not it's very easy to just think of yourself, you know, and how you're cantering, but not how the horse is feeling. And with the work that we do, I can categorically say that most of the time the horses don't feel good about the canter initially. You know, there's something going on. Either they've got some sort of pain association with it, a discomfort association. People maybe haven't been balanced on them. People have asked inappropriately and hurried them into it. They got to worry about it, and they're like, oh, I want to get it over and done with. It's a bit like, you know, people say, here's another analogy, people say, oh, my horse loves jumping, and because when the horse sees a jump, he can't wait to go at it. Well, in actual fact, it's not that the horse likes jumping, it's actually the opposite. The horse is worried about the jump, and he wants to get it over and done with as quickly as possible. Because if you think about it, I'm not saying horses don't like jumping. I'm sure there's a lot that do, but you can get the horse that's the best, the most brilliant and most enthusiastic jumper and put him in a field full of fences, and I've yet to know of a horse that will take himself round and do a clear round without the rider. You know, if you let him loose in a field full of jumps, he won't suddenly say, oh, there's a field full of jumps, I can't wait to jump them. He'll just eat grass, and the only time he jumps them, as if, you know, he's racing around and they happen to be in the way and he's all excited, or he wants to jump out, whatever, or there's somebody actually asking him. So a horse that's worried about the jump will see a jump and start to get all het up and appear like he's eager to go over it. Well, it's exactly the same to a canter. You know, a lot of horses, they see this open space and they get all strung up about the canter, and they say, my horse likes to gallop. Well, it might appear like that, but actually there's a huge amount of worry, because when the horse is no longer worried about the canter or a jump, they can take it or leave it. When we used to train jumping horses, they would look at a jump and they wouldn't automatically assume that they had to cart us into it and over it, because they weren't worried about it, and so they could take it or leave it. We could canter right up to a jump, and within a few strides we could just stop, turn away, jump it from the other side. We could school in a field full of jumps. They wouldn't necessarily think they were going jumping, or we could just trot over a jump. Even with experienced horses, you know, we would just trot over some little logs or a jump, and it took the worry out of it. And it's exactly the same with the canter. The reason that the canter doesn't go according to plan is because the horse has worry, and then of course you haven't got that bond. The old Melle used to be very keen to hurry home. She knew where home was, and her walk would definitely get Marchier, but now we're heading for home, and you can see that actually she's just in plod mode, and that's absolutely fantastic, because it shows that we did all that work with the canter, and instead of making her more anxious so that she couldn't wait to get home, it's actually made it so that she's happy to wander home and dawdle on the way home. So I've strengthened my bond by doing that canter work, but not keeping the canter going, doing lots and lots of transitions, up and down, and that's how I've been strengthening my bond. I mean, before we did the canter work, I was strengthening it in other areas, and this is the last area, so that she feels really confident with me in all her gaits, and then, you know, she'll be able to be that horse for her new owner, who would be the first to admit she doesn't have the necessary skills to do it. But I know that, you know, when we run through the canter aids and everything like that, you know, she'll hopefully be listening to Melle, and Melle will be listening to her, and then they'll have a really nice experience. And Melle's great for going in straight lines anyway, and she's not one of these that canters and then plunges sideways or shoots sideways. Yeah, I've had a few of them, well, I've more than a few, and I really appreciate ones that go in straight lines now. Of course, when they have gone sideways like that, you know, cantering along one minute and over the other side of the fire break the next, you know, you can get them out of that for sure, but while they're in it, not the best. You can't relax in the sense that you have to make sure that you keep them straight the whole time.